Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. Later in the show, we will talk about the government shutdown with Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But I wanted to start with the controversy surrounding the proposed Donald Trump Presidential Library in downtown Miami. Let's go through the chronology of events. On September 16th, the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees posted this notice online, announcing that there would be a special meeting of the board on September 23rd. The notice stated, at this special board meeting, the District Board of Trustees will discuss potential real estate transactions. It didn't say what type of real estate transaction they would consider. It didn't say why this needed to be done in an emergency meeting, as opposed to waiting a few weeks for the board's next regularly scheduled gathering. It didn't reveal the plan was to just give away 3 acres of land that the college owns next to the Freedom Tower. And most importantly, it didn't mention anything about a presidential library. Nothing. Just a potential real estate transaction. And then the agenda for the meeting came out. This is what the agenda looked like. And as you can see, there was only one item: authorization to convey property to the Board of Trustees of the Internal Improvement Trust Fund of the state of Florida. Again, no details, nothing that would allow the public to know what was really going on. And so on September 23rd, the Board of Trustees gathered, and without any discussion, without anyone explaining what they were really voting on, they agreed to give away this incredibly valuable piece of land to the governor and the cabinet. This land is easily worth $200 to $300 million. And again, they did this with no discussion. They came in, they said the Pledge of Allegiance, voted to give away the land, and went on their way. How is that possible? Either this was a backroom deal worked out in violation of the state's sunshine laws, and everyone on the board knew what was really going on, or those trustees are so incompetent, so negligent, that they didn't think to ask a single question. Within minutes, and I mean literally within minutes of the trustees voting, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier released on Twitter this video, announced what was really taking place.
This morning we're here in Miami at the Freedom Tower, our very own Ellis Island of the South. Immediately adjacent to the Freedom Tower is the land that the state would like to set aside, land that we hope will one day house the Presidential Library of President Donald J. Trump.
Clearly, he knew what the secret plan was all along, and within a few days, the Florida cabinet met and approved the transfer of land from the state of Florida to the group planning the Donald Trump Library, a group headed by his son, Eric Trump. And now we're learning the presidential library will also include a hotel and condos. No matter what you think of Donald Trump, this is as shady a real estate deal as I have ever seen, and I've seen quite a few in Miami. And if this was all on the up and up, why did they have to do it in such a duplicitous manner? This week, I spoke to former FIU professor and historian Marvin Dunn, who organized a quick protest last week and is demanding a criminal investigation into the Board of Trustees. He is also planning on bringing a civil lawsuit against the college. I started by asking for his reaction to how this deal was put together.
Then my first reaction was heartbreak. I was heartbroken and then outraged, but heartbroken because that land belongs to our kids, to their educational future. And to have that just taken away without any public comment or ability to participate, I found that to be outrageous, heartbreaking, and I'm very, very concerned that this is going to injure the future of our kids as far as what they could have gotten from Miami-Dade College had this land grab not happened.
You know, this item came up on the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees agenda without any real description. It didn't say that this was about a potential library for Donald Trump. It just talked about a land transfer of 2.6 acres of land back to the state of Florida without any real explanation. And my understanding is they just voted on it without any discussion whatsoever, which raises some interesting questions about how did everyone know to vote for this without any discussions or advanced preparation?
That's my question. If there was no discussion prior to the meeting, that would have been illegal, violating the Sunshine Act. No discussion during the meeting, and then the vote was unanimous. And within hours, the state announces that land's going to go to Donald Trump's library. Somebody had to be talking to someone during the course of this whole transaction, and we want to know who talked to whom, when. How does this get done without any public comment, any notice to us that would have been appropriate? So, Jim, I think this is illegal. I think the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees should take back this offer, illegally offered to the state of Florida. And we're going to go to court to ask the court to assure that this will happen.
I want to get to the court filing that you're planning on making on Monday in a second, but before that, you have also asked for Miami-Dade State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Rundle to investigate this as a Sunshine Law violation. Do you have any real confidence that Rundle will investigate this deal? I mean, this does not seem like something that she wants to wade into, given the political climate in Miami-Dade County. She seems too scared to try to do these sorts of things. But do you have more confidence in her?
I believe that she'll do the right thing, but I also know that she works for the state. The governor has control of her purse strings for her office. So I recognize those limitations on her. That's one reason why we're going straight to the court and to ask the court to take charge of this case.
So you're filing a civil lawsuit in court on Monday. Is that going to be in state court, in federal court? Where are you going? And give us a preview of what you think this lawsuit is about and why you have standing.
Well, we're charging the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees for violating the Sunshine Act. That's pretty obvious they did that. Meeting in secret, not giving public notice. So that's the main focus of our lawsuit. You did this secretly. We should have had a chance to participate or know what we were doing. Therefore, the land giveaway was illegal. And we're asking the court to require them to take the land, to take the offer back. Beyond that, I believe that as a community, Miami-Dade County was harmed by this. As citizens in Miami-Dade County, we were all harmed by this. So we're also considering a class action lawsuit, which will represent all of us saying we don't think as a community that we were properly given notice and involvement in this transaction.
So let's take a step back for a second. There are those who will argue that having a presidential library in their city is not just an economic boon to the city, but it is also an element of prestige for, in this case, what would be Miami-Dade College. That Miami-Dade College as the home of a presidential library is something that Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees would want, that Miami-Dade College would want.
The whole thing about the library is a ruse. The library is an excuse to take the most valuable property in downtown Miami and give it to Donald Trump for economic development. Jim, they're going to put condos on that property. Eric Trump says it's going to be an iconic building on Biscayne Boulevard. 98 stories, 100 stories of condos and a hotel. The library will be sort of encased in that, but the main thing about this effort is that it is a land grab for economic benefit to the Trump family. And that should be insulting to even folks who support the president. No president, even I would be just as upset if they were giving it to Obama. This is wrong, just basically wrong for the public to be treated this way.
You know, the location, not just the fact that it's waterfront land and prime real estate, also next to the Freedom Tower. Given Donald Trump's policies on immigration and treatment of immigrants, his crackdown on ICE, does that trouble you that the location is also close to such an iconic site for welcoming of immigrants from other parts of the world?
Jim, we should always honor that building for what it meant to our Cuban American citizens in this seeking freedom. That building is iconically important to our community. And then to erect a structure next to it that celebrates a president who has suppressed rights and freedom in this country as no other president has done before him is an irony that escapes me. I don't believe it's as my daughter would say, a good look for downtown Miami to have 98-story towers rising next to that Freedom Tower. Actually, Eric Trump said that it's going to be an iconic structure on Biscayne Boulevard, visible from sea. which means that folks won't, the light at the top of the Freedom Tower won't be the guiding light for freedom. It'll be Trump, 90 stories above Biscayne Boulevard, flashing that name. It doesn't fit. It's not right.
Given what the politics of Miami-Dade County are these days, the appointment of judges in this county, do you have much confidence that you can prevail in a suit? In other words, do you continue to have confidence in the judicial system to sort through this?
Jim, the only hope that I have for our country is the courts. We have fine judges in Miami-Dade County and in the state of Florida. And I think that we can rely on those judges to reach a fair decision for the public. So yes, I have confidence in the courts. I believe that we will have a successful outcome because I believe in the court system. I think we will prevail.
Talk to me about your concerns with taking this land away from Miami-Dade College so that it will be used for a library / hotel / condominium complex.
Jim, everybody in our community should be upset about this because they're taking land from our kids, from the future education of our kids, and giving it to Donald Trump for a library, hotel, and condos. Even folks who support the president should see that as being wrong and should oppose what they're doing. This is hurting our kids and their future.
And there are no restrictions on the land. That's the other thing that I found amazing.
That's right. That's right. Once it becomes the president's library, there are no restrictions. Once it becomes the president's library, the state, the county have no say on what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing with regard to, do they have to provide parking? Usually when you do a massive development, you have to provide parking. There's no requirements for that in this transfer. We don't know how tall this building could be, how many units they could pack into that building for residential or condo use. There are really there are no limits as to what this is not how you would convey land in any normal circumstance.
Exactly. This would be better fit at Del Mar-a-Lago or Doral, not in downtown Miami.
When we come back, we'll talk about what Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz is saying about the government shutdown. Stay with us. Welcome back. As we tape this on Friday, the federal government is still shut down, with Republicans and Democrats blaming each other, while President Trump promised to use the shutdown to fire more federal employees and cancel projects in blue states. This week, I spoke to Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz about the reasons for the shutdown.
It's very simple why we're in a shutdown. It's because Republicans control every part of the federal government, the White House, the House, and the Senate. And they refuse to focus for the end of year government spending on what Democrats know is essential, and that is eliminating the cuts, lowering people's healthcare costs, and saving Americans' healthcare. We have 15 million people that the Republicans have kicked off of their healthcare who will completely lose their healthcare if we don't act. And the enhanced Obamacare tax credits, they expire in 2 months, with healthcare insurance premiums going out over the next couple of weeks, where millions of people, their healthcare costs will skyrocket. I have, Jim, 203,000 people in my congressional district alone, nearly 1 in 4 of the people I represent, who will have healthcare premiums explode. Just to give you an example of what that means, you have a family of 4 who earn $64,000 a year. If we don't extend the enhanced premium tax credits, then their premium costs will go up $2,500 a year, and that is a 182% increase. That is real money when people's costs are already skyrocketing when it comes to rent and groceries and so many other things, because Trump has made everything cost more. So this has to be discussion.
So this obviously, in the House, the Republicans have the votes to be able to do this without Democrats. So it really comes down to what's happening in the Senate, because you need 60 votes. So they do need Democrats to come on board. Several Democrats have said this is the wrong fight to be waging right now. I mean, U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto said, "I cannot support a costly shutdown that would hurt families and hand even more power to this reckless administration. Angus King said by shutting down the government, we're actually giving Donald Trump more power. Donald Trump is claiming he's going to start doing massive firings during the shutdown. He's already targeting projects in blue states. How do you respond to those critics who say you're just giving more power to Donald Trump?
Donald Trump has been doing all of this anyway. If you've been following him, what's been happening since January 20th, Donald Trump has come in and taken a meat axe to the federal government. He is not only firing federal employees illegally already, and at least some of them have either been rehired because they know they went too far, or courts have forced them to rehire people, but hundreds of thousands have been terminated or given buyouts. And on top of that, he's just tried to have his way with how money that has already been appropriated by Congress is spent. They're now, this is essentially like a hostage taking where the federal, like Donald Trump is putting his arm around the neck of the hostage and threatening to shoot it if Democrats don't relent on our insistence to make sure that people's healthcare costs don't skyrocket. Do you know what happens when healthcare costs skyrocket? People can't afford to go to the doctor. They use the emergency room as their primary access point for healthcare, and everyone's costs go up because of cost shifting. And also, these illnesses are diagnosed at a much later stage. People will die as a result of not being able to get healthcare. So this is critical. Donald Trump has been firing people anyway at will. Those have had to be challenged in court. He's continuing to do that. And now he's literally making a mockery of Democratic leadership, posting racist memes, using federal employees to violate the Hatch Act and make political statements when federal employees are prohibited by law from doing that. He is entirely unserious and really unhinged. And we have to make sure that we rein him in.
I wanted to ask you about that. The videos that he's posted with Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero and making the false claim, and it is a false claim, that what Democrats are arguing for is to provide health care for illegal aliens here in this country, undocumented individuals. You commented a little bit about it, but this notion of using these racist tropes to try to make your way comes down to a larger question of messaging. And that is one area where Democrats seem to have a problem matching the White House's intensity. Are the Democrats doing enough on the messaging front themselves?
Well, one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to lie. The Republicans' only argument is a lie that says that Democrats want to just give health care to undocumented immigrants. Here's the bottom line. It is against federal law already, and Democrats are not proposing to change that for undocumented immigrants to get Medicaid and for undocumented immigrants to get enhanced premium tax credits. That's already prohibited. That's not what this is about. There weren't undocumented immigrants getting part of either of those programs, save for, the extraneous individual here or there. So when you don't have an argument, you start making stuff up. When you don't have an argument, you start threatening the hostage. And trying to bully and intimidate, or you engage in outrageous memes that are racist and horrendous. And that's why they're losing the messaging war, Jim, because the major polling being done shows that it is Republicans that are owning this shutdown, because Americans know that they're in charge of everything, that we should be lowering healthcare costs. They shut the government down previously when they wanted to end Obamacare. And you know what? Americans were overwhelmingly opposed to that because they want to make sure they have access to quality, affordable health care, and they still do. And that's why this is a funding fight that we are winning in terms of America's sentiment.
I also wanted to ask you about the indictment of James Comey and Donald Trump's use of the Justice Department to basically go after his enemies. He's not even shy about saying what he's doing. Your reaction to that?
Donald Trump is treating the Department of Justice like it is his own personal vengeance law firm. And I mean, the fact that he fired a well-respected Republican U.S. attorney who is respected on both sides because he wouldn't indict Comey because he's investigated and said there wasn't enough evidence to warrant that indictment, and then replaced him with someone whose first time in a courtroom was when she sought the indictment in front of the grand jury. And my understanding is that she literally had no idea what she was doing. And, you know, what they say about ham sandwiches and grand juries. So they secured the indictment. But this is a travesty of justice. The Department of Justice has, for our entire history in the United States, been independent, essentially, from the executive branch. And now nothing is independent of Donald Trump, who bends every part of the federal government to his will. And it is part of the very serious diminution of the rule of law, of due process, and of ensuring that people are prosecuted fairly and under the rights they have in the Constitution, which doesn't seem possible anymore under Donald Trump's administration.
So much of what we see happen in this administration just becomes like a fire hose where it's impossible to keep up. It was only a few days ago that Donald Trump appeared before a gathering of generals and admirals and talked about using the military to fight the enemy within here in the United States, and that the troops may be a good idea for them to use American cities, democratic cities, as training ground. Your reaction to that?
Donald Trump is a sick, twisted wannabe dictator who is literally trying to use the levers of power that he controls to be able to have his way with the American people and American cities and make more money for his own personal benefit in the process. There's a reason that the reports out of that meeting were that the generals didn't applaud at all, that there was stone cold silence. And I mean, it is wildly unconstitutional and against the law for the president of the United States to use the military. You're not allowed to use the military domestically, particularly in taking action against the American people themselves. We have law enforcement that enforces the laws in the state that is domestic, and his real agenda, was revealed in that meeting. So in a way, I'm glad that it was exposed to the American people about what his real intent is when he, sending troops into D.C. and talking about sending troops into Chicago and did have troops in Memphis. He is a racist who is targeting his political enemies and who are inclusive of minorities that don't subscribe to his brand of essentially domestic terrorism, which is what he would be engaging in if he turned the military on the American people.
We'll be right back after the break. Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to contact me at jdefede@cbs.com. I do enjoy hearing from you. Thanks again for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.